On the issue of replacement workers, and the minister spoke quite lengthy term, as is his right as the lead-off speaker and the sponsor minister, on the issue of replacement workers. And so I'd like to speak a little bit about replacement workers, because we know one of the most critical or interesting things now is that the Parliamentary Budget Officer has indicated that a record subsidy to 3 large multinational auto companies has been brought in by this government. That's already $6 billion over their budget, or their claim of what the subsidy is, to over $43 billion of subsidy over a 6-year period for some of the largest foreign multinationals there is. And in doing so, they have refused to release what those contracts are. And the reason that pertains to replacement workers is because one of those has already sent their ambassador from South Korea, who I don't believe is freelancing. I don't think ambassadors for South Korea freelance, is out now and was out in Windsor, meeting with the senior officials, the mayor, the chief of police, and telling everyone that Windsor had to get prepared for 1,600 replacement workers for the Stellantis plant, replacing the Canadians that the minister said would be hired. And if I go back, and I hate to throw the minister's words back, the Minister of Industry, sorry, not the Minister of Labour. I don't believe the Minister of Labour has spoken on this. I just want to make clear. He may have outside the House, but not inside the House. The Minister of Industry said, "Today's announcement is great news for Canadian jobs." So, and the Prime Minister echoed the same thing. He said, "By working together, we are creating thousands of new jobs, making a difference in the lives of people, now making sure that future generations have a clean environment to live in." I think all folks that heard that announcement thought that the Prime Minister was talking about Southwest Ontario and Windsor, but it turns out he was talking about working together to create thousands of new jobs for people in South Korea, using $15 billion in that instance of taxpayer money. As our leader has said, there are 15 million households.
I believe in point of order from the honourable member for Kingston and the Islands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today we're talking, and this is the first debate to lead it off, the first speech from the Conservatives. We're talking about this anti-scab legislation that the minister has tabled and has spoken to. This member is talking about something completely unrelated. He's talking about the Stellantis, which is regulated by the province of Ontario in terms of the workers there, not by the federal government. He's actually nowhere near discussing the bill. I'm really hoping that you can encourage him to come back to the substance that we're debating today and to be relevant.
Well, considering the honourable member does have 20 minutes, we'll ask him to maybe tie that all together as best he can. The honourable member for South Shore St. Margaret's.
Well, I appreciate that the member for Kingston and Islands doesn't want us to talk about the fact that this government, once again, is hypocritical and inconsistent in applying their philosophy on replacement workers. Not only are they not applying it to federal government workers, they're not applying it to the contracts they sign with Canadian taxpayers. And since the minister used replacement workers in the context of people doing other people's jobs multiple times within his speech, I think that talking about replacement workers is what the subject is about, seeing as that's the way the minister introduced it and spoke about it. So if I irritate the members for bringing up the fact that they didn't have the courage to sign contracts with foreign multinationals that prohibit foreign replacement workers from being employed in these plants, and in fact have allowed it and didn't create and make sure that taxpayer-funded foreign replacement workers are not part of the contracts they sign, then they've left themselves open to this problem. And you know who's disappointed by this? All Canadians who believed this government when they said they were protecting Canadian jobs in the unionized auto industry. All the unions that represent the auto workers in Southwest Ontario.
Rising on a point of order, the honourable member for Mégantic-L'Érable. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If you seek it, I'm fairly certain that you will find the unanimous consent of this House such that my colleague can share his speaking time with me. Thank you.
Tout le monde est d'accord qui part.
Is everyone in agreement for the member to split his time? Yes.
Shore St.
The honourable member for South Shore St. Margaret's, who was ready to speak for 20 minutes, but now he will have 10 minutes. So he has 3 minutes of the 10 minutes remaining.
I see the honourable member for Elmwood-Transcona.
Now that the member has considerably less time, I wonder if he might hurry up in becoming relevant to the bill.
I tell you, it's we had a rough afternoon, I guess. The honourable member for South Shore St. Margaret's, I will, since he only has 3 minutes, you have to tie some of these things together and come to the crux of the discussion here today.
I'll come to the crux of the issue, and I know that member had the joy of sitting and listening to my 18 hours in Finance Committee, so I'm sure he'd appreciate this. 3 minutes. Where do I go? More replacement workers are potential in the Next Star plant, that's the one in Windsor, but also in the Volkswagen contract, and I've had the privilege of reading the Volkswagen contract. And I'll tell you what's not in the Volkswagen contract, which is apparently a mirror of these things, is a prohibition on replacement workers being put into these taxpayer-funded plants. And I know members on the other side have been questioning this issue, but on the government's own website, they have a job bank, the Government of Canada's website, and at there are about 20 jobs advertised for Stellantis on the Government of Canada website, and it says on it who can apply for these jobs. Canadian citizens and permanent residents or temporary residents in Canada, but more importantly, other candidates with or without a valid Canadian work permit. So it's right on the government website. The ambassador for South Korea has been telling us that they're going to do replacement workers at this plant. And so I'd ask, in the other contracts they've signed, in the Ford contract with the South Korean company to produce in Quebec cathodes for the EV business, a South Korean company is part of that. Can they share with us that contract to make sure replacement workers are not being used, that they got guarantees? Can they share with us on the Volkswagen contract that there is a clause in there that says that replacement workers from outside of Canada will not be used for those jobs? And I think it's incumbent upon them to come clean on those issues. It does, what it does not say also, because we've been asking for that clarity and transparency from the government, is that I don't believe it says that the Government of Canada in any of those contracts has the ability to prevent those contracts from being made public. So if they're so opposed to replacement workers, as the minister said, why don't they show Canadians that they put their money where their mouth is, when they put the taxpayers' money where their mouth is, and actually ensure that only Canadians will be applied in these unionized jobs in the auto industry, but they're unwilling. In fact, Liberals voted against that in the Industry Committee last night. I'd like to know from Liberals on the other side of the House what it is they're hiding. Is it that they put clauses in these contracts to allow the replacement workers that the Minister of Labour is so desperately trying to prohibit in federal institutions, but signing contracts to spend $15, $30 billion of taxpayer money to allow replacement workers from other countries in these auto businesses?